The air inside the drowned church was thick, with the scent of damp stone and brine, the flickering candlelight casting long shadows across the waterlogged altar. Clara Mallory knelt on the slippery floor, her hands steady despite the cold that clung to her skin. Around her, the faint outlines of the sunken village shimmered through the murky water, a ghostly reminder of the lives lost to the relentless depths. Tonight was the night she had prepared for, the ritual to break the curse that had bound this place for a century. Her breath came slow and deliberate as she began to chant the ancient words she had painstakingly pieced together from faded manuscripts and whispered legends. The rhythmic cadence of her voice echoed softly against the ruined walls, mingling with the distant sound of water lapping against submerged timbers. It was a prayer and a plea, a call to the forces that held sway over this forsaken place. Suddenly, a chilling presence swept through the church, the temperature dropping sharply as the water around her rippled unnaturally. From the shadows emerged the vengeful priest, his pallid, waterlogged figure drifting forward with an eerie grace. His tattered robes fluttered like seaweed caught in a current, and his eyes glowed with a faint, malevolent light. The very air seemed to constrict, pressing on Clara's chest with a weight that threatened to steal her breath. "You cannot undo what has been done," the priest hissed, his voice a cold whisper that slithered through the darkness. "This village is mine, bound by blood and faith. Your sacrifice is futile." Clara's heart hammered in her chest, but she met his gaze without wavering. "This curse ends tonight," she declared, her voice firm despite the fear clawing at her insides. "The souls trapped here deserve peace, not eternal torment." As the priest advanced, the water around them churned, spectral figures rising from the depths, their mournful faces twisted in anguish. Clara closed her eyes, envisioning her sister Tommy, lost to the same merciless waters that had claimed this village. Drawing strength from her grief and determination, Clara reached into the satchel at her side, pulling out a small vial filled with sacred water blessed by Father Nalan, water that symbolized cleansing and renewal. She sprinkled the holy liquid over the altar, the droplets sparkling like liquid stars before sinking into the ancient stone. The spirits wailed, a haunting chorus that filled the church with an unbearable sorrow. Yet amidst the despair, a faint glow began to grow around Clara, a fragile light pushing back the encroaching darkness. At that moment, Sister Agnes appeared silently beside her, an ethereal figure cloaked in a faded habit. Her serene eyes met Clara's, conveying a silent benediction, a reminder that faith, even when fractured, still held power. Agnes's presence imbued Clara with a newfound resolve, a whisper of hope amid the shadows. The vengeful priest's form twisted in fury, tendrils of dark water reaching out to snatch Clara away. But she held firm, reciting the final words of the ritual invoking forgiveness, not just for the village, but for the priest himself. The weight of centuries of pain and fanaticism seemed to crack in the air, the curse's grip faltering. A blinding pulse of shimmering light erupted from the altar, flooding the church with radiant energy. The spirits rose one last time, their mournful chorus lifting into a celestial harmony that resonated deep within Clara's soul. Faces once twisted by anguish softened, eyes closing in peaceful reprieve as they dissolved into the light. The water stilled, the oppressive chill lifting as the village began to sink slowly back beneath the waves. Clara rose to her feet, exhausted but triumphant, her sacrifice having shattered the cycle of despair, for now. As the church's bells tolled eerily underwater, their mournful peal echoed a bittersweet farewell, signaling an end and a warning. Yet even as the village disappeared beneath the dark waters, a lingering shadow remained, a subtle reminder that beneath the waves, in the quiet depths, the curse's echo might someday awaken anew. Clara's gaze turned toward the horizon, the weight of loss and hope intertwined within her. The battle was won, but the war against the darkness was far from over. With trembling hands, she closed her journal, the final entry a testament to sacrifice, forgiveness, and the fragile light that persevered in the face of overwhelming darkness. "Rest now," she whispered to the vanished souls, her voice carrying on the wind, "but I will be ready if you ever return." The water swallowed the village once more, but Clara's story and the curse's haunting legacy had only just begun. The water lapped gently against the broken pews and shattered stained glass, its chills seeping through Clara's clothes and chilling her to the bone. The sunken church, half submerged and battered by centuries beneath the waves, seemed to breathe with a slow, mournful rhythm as the village began its inevitable descent once more. Clara knelt in the flooded sanctuary, her hands clasped tightly, her breath steady despite the cold that threatened to numb her fingers and lips. Around her, the faint tolling of the ancient church bells echoed through the depths, a haunting melody that was both a requiem and a warning. She closed her eyes, letting the sound wash over her, feeling the weight of the centuries of suffering and faith that permeated this place. Here, in the heart of the drowned village, she offered what might be the last prayer for the souls trapped beneath the waves, souls bound by a curse forged in desperation, betrayal, and blind fanaticism. Her voice was soft, barely more than a whisper, yet it carried the strength of all she had learned, all she had feared, and all she hoped to change. "Forgive them," she murmured, "those who lived and died here, caught between faith and despair. Let their souls find peace beyond the waters that claimed them. May the curse that binds them be broken, and may the darkness give way to light." As her words drifted into the watery silence, the air around her seemed to shift. The ghostly presence of Sister Agnes materialized at her side, her faded habit flowing as if caught in a gentle breeze that did not stir the stagnant water. The nun's serene eyes met Clara's, offering a silent affirmation that bolstered her resolve. "You carry their hope," Sister Agnes said softly, her voice like the ringing of distant chimes. "Faith may waver, but it never truly dies." Clara nodded, drawing strength from the apparition's calm. The church's shadows deepened, and from the darkness emerged the pale, waterlogged figure of the vengeful priest. His eyes glowed faintly, a malevolent light that had haunted her since her first encounter. Yet now, as he watched her with a mixture of fury and resignation, he seemed less a terror and more a tragic relic, a man consumed by his own hubris and the weight of his sins. "You think your prayers can undo what was done?" The priest's voice echoed like a hollow lament beneath the waves. "The curse is eternal, bound by blood and faith." Clara's gaze did not waver. No curse is stronger than the power of forgiveness. No darkness can resist the light of sacrifice. The water around them pulsed, swirling with spectral energy as the spirits of the drowned village stirred. Yet instead of rising in wrath, the apparitions began to fade, their anguished cries softening into whispers of gratitude. The ancient curse, once an unbreakable chain, began to weaken beneath the weight of Clara's prayer and the sacrifice she had made to reach this moment. Outside the church, the village's skeletal remains slipped slowly beneath the waves once more, swallowed by the dark embrace of the sea. The bells told their final lament, ringing out a mournful farewell to the lost and a cautionary echo for the living. Clara remained kneeling, her heart heavy yet uplifted by the fragile hope she had kindled. Though the village sank, the spirits were free at last, and the cycle of despair had been broken, at least for now. But as the last echoes of the bells faded into silence, a faint ripple disturbed the surface of the water, a reminder that beneath the waves, the curse's shadow lingered still. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Rest now, all of you. Your suffering is over." And with that, the church was swallowed by the sea, leaving behind only memories, prayers, and the haunting possibility that the darkness was never truly gone. Clara rose slowly, water dripping from her hair and clothes, and stepped out into the cold dawn. The sunken village was gone for another 100 years, but the story, the curse, and its price would linger in her heart forever. As she walked away from the shore, the wind carried a faint tolling sound, a lingering echo that promised the cycle might one day begin anew. But for now, there was peace, fragile, hard-won, and drenched in the bittersweet light of redemption. Clara knew her journey was far from over. The curse was broken, but its story was not finished. And somewhere beneath the waves, in the depths where water and faith intertwined, the last prayer still echoed, waiting to be heard again. The early morning air was crisp and salty as Clara Mallory stood alone on the rocky shoreline, staring out over the restless sea. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a pale golden light that shimmered on the waves. Beneath the surface, faint bells tolled, their eerie underwater chimes weaving through the rhythmic crash of the tide. It was a haunting symphony, one that seemed to carry the voices of the drowned village whispering from the depths. Clara wrapped her coat tighter around herself, the chill of the breeze mingling with the chill in her bones. The village had sunk once more beneath the waves, swallowed by the relentless embrace of the water, but the memories remained vivid in her mind. The faces of the spirits she had encountered, the vengeful priest, Sister Agnes, the restless villagers, still haunted her dreams and waking thoughts alike. Back in her modest study, the familiar scent of old paper and ink surrounded her as she settled at her desk. The worn leather journal lay open before her, its pages dense with frantic notes, sketches of the sunken church, and cryptic symbols. Her handwriting wavered in places, betraying the turmoil within. As she traced a delicate drawing of the altar submerged beneath the floodwaters, soft whispers seemed to drift through the silent room. Clara paused, heart pounding, but the shadows only flickered in the candlelight, the voices elusive and intangible. She closed the journal slowly, trying to steady her breath. The curse had been broken, or so she hoped. The spirits had found peace, their anguished cries finally stilled. Yet something unsettled her, a sense that the darkness beneath the waves had not fully relinquished its hold. The cycle had been interrupted, but not ended. That night, as Clara prepared for bed, a sudden chill swept through the room. The candle flame flickered violently before settling into a steady glow. In the half-light, a shadow coalesced near the window, ethereal and faint. Sister Agnes appeared, her faded habit barely moving in the still air, her serene yet cryptic gaze fixed on Clara. "Peace is a fragile thing," the ghostly nun whispered, voice like the rustle of dry leaves. "The waters may hide the past, but the past waits patient, watching." Clara felt a shiver ripple down her spine, but nodded silently. "What should I do?" she asked, voice barely audible. "Remain vigilant," Sister Agnes replied, her form beginning to fade. "Faith and sacrifice have stilled the storm, but the tides will turn again." With that, the apparition vanished, leaving Clara alone with the weight of her resolve and the darkness pressing at the edges of her mind. Sleep came fitfully, and her dreams were vivid and haunting. She found herself standing at the water's edge, the moonlight casting silver paths across the waves. There, wading in the shallows, was Tommy, her sister, her pale face illuminated by the spectral glow of the sea. Tommy's eyes were filled with sorrow and a silent plea that tore at Clara's heart. "Why did you leave me?" the vision seemed to ask, though no words escaped her lips. Clara reached out, but the water slipped through her fingers, cold and unyielding. The waves lapped gently around Tommy's feet, a reminder of the curse's relentless pull and the loss that fueled Clara's obsession. She woke with tears streaming down her face, the ache of unresolved grief settling deep within her. Days passed in a blur of quiet reflection. Clara revisited the journals, the artifacts she had gathered, and the memories etched into her soul. She understood now more than ever the cyclical nature of the curse. That history was doomed to repeat itself unless the delicate balance of faith, sacrifice, and remembrance was maintained. Elia's warnings echoed in her mind, the conflicted loyalty of the villagers reflected in the fragile peace she had witnessed. The village's legacy was one of fear and faith intertwined, of darkness and light locked in an eternal struggle beneath the waves. Despite the creeping dread, Clara felt a melancholic hope rise within her. She had faced the unknown and survived, breaking the immediate cycle of despair. Yet, she knew the curse's shadow lingered, waiting patiently in the depths for its chance to rise again. As she prepared to leave the shore, a final glance toward the horizon revealed a faint shimmer beneath the water, a ripple of movement that was not the tide. Clara's heart quickened, a silent promise that the past was never truly gone, that the echoes of the drowned church would continue to haunt her dreams and her waking world alike. The sea held its secrets close, and Clara Mallory, historian and seeker of truth, was determined to keep watch, ready for whatever darkness might emerge from beneath the waves. But as she turned to leave, the distant tolling of underwater bells began anew, a chilling reminder that some curses are never fully laid to rest. The rain tapped a gentle yet relentless rhythm against the window pane of Clara Mallory's small study, a sound that seemed to echo the persistent beating of her heart. The dim glow of a single candle cast long shadows across the scattered pages of her journal, its flickering light a fragile beacon in the encroaching darkness. She sat curled in her chair, pen poised above the paper, her thoughts tangled between hope and despair. Her fingers trembled as she began to write, the ink flowing unevenly, tracing the contours of a mind caught in the uneasy limbo between certainty and doubt. "The village has retreated beneath the waves once more," she wrote, "but the water still whispers secrets I cannot silence. The curse, it seems, is not yet laid to rest." Her gaze lifted to the window, where the rain blurred the world outside into a shifting tapestry of gray. The resurfacing of the sunken village was a fleeting phenomenon, a cruel gift that returned every 100 years like a phantom tide. Yet this time, Clara felt the weight of something different, a subtle undercurrent she could not explain. The journal was more than a record, it was a lifeline, a way to anchor her spiraling thoughts. Each entry was a confession, a battle fought in the quiet hours when the world slept, but her mind remained restless. She wrote of the faint ripples she had noticed at the water's edge, undisturbed by wind or current, like whispers from the depths. She described the shadows that clung to the church's submerged spire, the lingering echoes of prayers long silenced. A sudden chill swept through the room, and Clara drew her shawl tighter around her shoulders. The flame of the candle flickered wildly, casting eerie shapes that danced on the walls. In the corner of her eye, she saw a movement, a figure shimmering into existence, ethereal and solemn. Sister Agnes, the ghostly nun who had appeared to her before, stood cloaked in her faded habit, eyes reflecting a sorrow that transcended death. "The currents run deeper than you know, Clara," the apparition whispered, her voice barely audible above the rain. "The waters carry more than memories, they bear the weight of what was never truly forgiven." Clara's heart thudded painfully in her chest, the room suddenly feeling colder, heavier. "How do I fight what I cannot see?" she asked, her voice trembling with the vulnerability she so often hid beneath layers of determination. Sister Agnes reached out, her translucent hand hovering just inches from Clara's cheek. "By remembering, by believing, by holding fast to the fragile hope that even the darkest waters can be cleansed." With that, the ghostly figure faded into the shadows, leaving Clara alone with the whispering rain and the echo of unfinished prayers. Later, as dusk fell, Clara found herself drawn once more to the water's edge. The village, now cloaked in twilight, lay silent and somber beneath the surface, its secrets submerged but not forgotten. She watched intently as the surface shimmered, disturbed by ripples that made no sense, no breeze, no movement, yet the water pulsed with life. The air was thick with the scent of salt and decay, the tangible presence of something unseen pressing against her senses. Clara's breath caught as a sudden shiver ran down her spine, the hairs on her arms standing on end. A faint sound broke the stillness, the distant tolling of bells, muffled and haunting, as if the drowned church was calling out from its watery grave. The sound resonated deep within her, stirring memories and fears alike. A cold touch brushed against her shoulder. Clara spun around, heart pounding fiercely. The night held only shadows and silence. No one was there. She swallowed hard, the weight of the unseen pressing upon her. The curse was not finished with the village nor with her. It lingered, like the currents beneath the waves, unseen, relentless, waiting. Returning to her study, Clara lit the candle anew and began to write once more. Her words were heavy with the melancholy of knowing that some battles are fought in the spaces between light and shadow, hope and despair. "The curse's cycle may yet turn again," she penned, "and I must be ready. For beneath these waves, the past stirs and unseen currents pull at the fragile threads of our lives." Outside, the rain continued its soft, unending song, a lullaby for the drowned, a warning for the living. And in the depths, the shadows waited, patient and eternal. The night stretched on, and Clara's journal grew thick with the weight of her thoughts, a testament to a struggle that was far from over. As the candle flickered low, she closed her eyes, steeling herself for the uncertain dawn. Because in the heart of the drowned village, beneath the restless waters, the unseen currents were already moving once more. The burden of memory, the cabin was quiet, except for the rhythmic tapping of rain against the window pane. A soft, persistent pattering that seemed almost like a heartbeat in the stillness. Clara Mallory sat curled in the corner, clutching a faded photograph in her hands. A picture of her sister Tommy, smiling brightly with eyes full of life and mischief. The edges of the photo were worn, softened by time and countless moments of being grasped tightly during sleepless nights. She stared at the image, the weight of years pressing down on her chest like a physical force. It was as if the past were not behind her, but wrapped around her like a shroud. Every memory a thread weaving grief and guilt together into a tapestry she could neither unravel nor fully embrace. Tommy's death had always been a mystery that whispered through Clara's thoughts, a shadow lurking beneath her every step. The drowning, the inexplicable, cruel event, had shattered her family and sent Clara down the path that led her here, to the resurfaced village and its drowned church. Every stone, every ripple of water seemed to echo the unanswered questions that gnawed at her heart. The photograph slipped from Clara's fingers and fluttered to the floor, landing face up. She closed her eyes, letting the silence fill the room. The scent of damp wood and faint traces of salt from the nearby sea mingled in the air, anchoring her to the present even as her mind drifted. Suddenly, a faint whisper brushed past her ears, as if carried on the breath of the wind. Clara's eyes snapped open. The room seemed to darken, the corners folding inward. A soft glow appeared near the doorway, coalescing into the unmistakable form of a young girl, Tommy. She stood there, ethereal and translucent, her light brown hair catching the dim glow like strands of spun gold. "Clara," the vision said, voice barely more than a sigh, "you don't have to carry this alone." Tears welled in Clara's eyes as she reached out, but her hand passed through the apparition like smoke. "Tommy," she whispered, voice trembling, "why did you have to go? Why did I have to lose you?" The girl's smile was sad but gentle, imbued with a love that transcended time. "It was never your fault. The water took me, but it cannot take the love we shared. Remember that, always." The vision faded slowly, leaving Clara alone once more, but somehow lighter, as if a small piece of the burden had been lifted. She sank to her knees, the damp floor cold beneath her, and let the tears fall freely. Days passed in a blur of reflection and quiet resolve. Clara found herself drawn to the shoreline at dusk, where the sun painted the sky in hues of amber and violet. The water lapped gently against the rocks, whispering secrets she was only beginning to understand. "I won't let this happen again," she murmured to the wind, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. "Not to you, not to anyone else." The village around her was still, the skeletal remains of houses and the church rising solemnly from the earth. Every step she took was a step closer to reckoning with the curse, with the spirits, and most of all with herself. One evening, back within the ancient church's sanctuary, Clara gathered a small bundle of Tommy's belongings, a worn bracelet, a scrap of fabric, a faded drawing. She placed them carefully on the altar and lit a solitary candle. The flickering flame cast dancing shadows on the walls, the air thick with the mingled scents of wax and salt. As the items burned slowly, Clara closed her eyes and whispered a prayer, not to any god or saint, but to the memory of her sister and the souls trapped in this sunken place. "I forgive you," she said, voice firm but tender, "and I ask for forgiveness for myself, for the village, for all who have suffered. Let this be the beginning of peace." The flame flickered wildly, then steadied, bathing the sanctuary in a warm, golden light. Outside, the water stilled, as if the restless spirits had paused to listen. Clara opened her eyes, feeling a profound calm settle over her. The burden of memory had not vanished, but it no longer crushed her. Instead, it fueled a cautious hope, a fragile flame against the darkness. She knew the path ahead would be perilous. The curse was not yet broken, and the vengeful priest's shadow still loomed. But with the memory of Tommy embraced rather than feared, Clara felt ready to face whatever horrors awaited beneath the waves. And as the night deepened, the village whispered its ancient secrets, waiting for the dawn.